everyone, welcome to Edupedia World 9th Grade Computer Applications Video Lecture Series. I'm Upeka Vendibona and here we are come with another episode for questions. Before moving on, let's revise few things we have already covered up. The first thing is statements end in a semicolon. So don't miss any semicolon. If so, you will get an error in the compile time. The second thing is code blocks are defined by pair of curly braces. There is a starting curly brace and there is an ending curly brace. So don't forget any of these. If so, you will get an error in the compile time. The third thing is when you are declaring variables, you have to give it a name and a type. For example, int x or int y or else int age. The next thing is assignment operator and the equal operator, because most of the people confuses these two operators. Remember, assignment operator has only one equal sign, but the equal operator has two equal signs. So don't put one equal sign inside of a condition. The next one is a while loop runs everything within its block defined by the curly braces as long as the conditional test is true. And always remember to avoid never-ending loops. So for that you have to include a termination statement. If the conditional test is false, the while loop code block won't run and execution will move down to the code immediately after the loop block. That means outside of the loop. And the last point is put a boolean test inside the parentheses of the loop. So this boolean test should return either true or false. These few revising facts will be useful to you to answer the questions in this episode. Here is our first exercise. In this exercise, we have to fill the missing code. We are given the output do, and we are given a source code which has some blank spaces. We have to fill out these blank spaces. The first thing we have to do is find out the print statements. So we have three print statements in here. This is the do statement, this is the be statement, and at the end we have the do statement. And this do string means this do string in the output. So now let's go through this source code. Here inside of the main method, the first thing it does is declaring the variable x and assign the value 1. And in the second statement it has a loop, a while loop. Inside this while loop we have our print statements. And now here we have to decide whether we have to use the print statement or the println statement. As the output is in the same line, we have to use the print statement rather than the println statement. So this should be a print statement. And same goes in this line. Okay, now we have to find out how many times this while loop should be executed. As both of the print statements of do and be included in the while loop, we can say this do part is not come from the while loop. Only this part is come from the while loop. And now let's go from the beginning. Variable x has the value 1. And just imagine the condition is true, and here the first do and be will be printed out. That means this one, and at the expression the value of the x would be, because 1 plus 1 is 2, the new value of the x would be 2. As the expression is the last statement of the while loop, we have to check the condition again and imagine the condition is true. And now the print statement do and be, and that means we are completed this part. And now at the expression the new value of the x is 3, because 2 plus 1 is 3. And again we have to check the condition, and this time we have to make this condition false, because we do not need another do and be print in the output, because we already print out all the do and be's. Therefore, we have to terminate this while loop. For that, we have to make this condition a false value. To make it false value, we can say x is lesser than 3. This code part should be executed while x is lesser than 3. As the value of the x is 3, 3 is not lesser than 3. Therefore, the loop will be terminated and we are all done with doobies. Okay, all now we have to do is print out this do part. So this do part is over here. So to execute this print statement, we have to make this condition a true value. That means x is equal to something that would make it return true. So the value of the x is at the last point is 3. If we say x is equal to 3, then we can make this print statement executed because the value of the x is now 3. This is how we can fill out the blanks of this source code to get this do output. Here is our next exercise. In this exercise, we are given few code snippets and they are all jumbled. We have to make them arrange in order to get this output over here. So in the output, it has A-B and C-D in the same line. So now to arrange that, first thing we have to do is find the main method. So this code snippet got the main method. That means this is the first code snippet. Now the letter A should be printed out. The A is in here. So this is the second code snippet. And there should be a dash. And from this code snippet, we can get the dash. And then we need the letter B. So letter B is in this code snippet. That means it is the fourth code snippet. In this code snippet, it also includes the letter C. And now we need a dash again. So here, this code segment would be appear again. And now the letter D. The letter D would be in this code segment. And we got remaining 2 code snippets. These 2 code segments should be included in the middle of other code segments. Now let's start from the beginning. Here's our main method. And the second code segment we identified got a if statement. If x greater than 2. Now what is this x? So the initialization and declaration is presented through this code segment. So I'll number it 1.1. So under the main method, the first statement should be int x equal 3. And now we got the if statement. If x is greater than 2, you can print letter A. As value of the x is 3, yes, 3 is greater than 2. So we can have this print A part. That means we are done with this. Now let's go to the third one. X equal x minus 1. So now the value of the x is 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. The new value of the x is 2. And then we got the print of the dash. That means we are done with this dash. Now let's go for the letter B. So now the letter B is in here. B and C are both in here. It has the condition x is equal to 2. So the new value of the x is 2. Therefore, this condition is true. So we can have this letter B and C. And now let's go for the dash. The current x value is 2 and 2 minus 1 is 1. The new value of the x is 1. And now we can print the dash in here. That means we are done with this dash. And now let's go for the letter D. So here is the letter D. it has a if condition x is equal 1. So the new value of the x is 1. Yes, 1 is equal to 1. Therefore, we can have this D printed out. And also it got a statement inside the if statement, x equal x minus 1. That means 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. So at the end, the value of x is 0. So that's how the code segments should be appear. So the first one is the main method. The second one is the declaration and initializing of the variable x. And the third one is printing of the letter A. And the fourth one is printing of the dash. And the next one is printing of the letters B and C. And then again we have to print the dash. And at the end we have to print the letter D. And now we got the remaining code segment, the while. Without the while loop, anyway we can get the output, but think that you have to put this while loop somewhere in this code. It is necessary, and it is necessary to put something inside in the while block. So where do you put this while loop? In the output there are no repetitions. So if you put this while loop in your code, it should be executed only once. And if you can remember, at the end of our code segments, the value of the x is gone 0. And now check the condition of the while loop. It got x greater than 0. At the beginning, the value of the x is 3 and 3 is greater than 0. And at the end, the value of the x is 0. And 0 is not greater than 0. Therefore, if we put all the other code segments inside of this while loop, at the second repetition, the loop will get terminated. Because at the end of the loop, the value of the x is getting 0, and when it checks the condition again, 0 is not greater than 0. So if it is necessary to include the while loop, you have to insert all the other code segments except the main method and the class definition and the declaration and initialization of the variable x. All the other code segments should be inserted inside the while loop. In this exercise, you are given 3 separate source files. Now you have to compile and run it and tell us the output. Sometimes there might be few errors. If so, you have to fix them and tell us the output. Now the condition is you cannot type them and use the JVM to run them. You have to use your brain. So think like a compiler and act like a JVM and tell us the output of these files. Now let's take the file A. In the file A, it has a class exercise 1b and it includes a main method. The next statement is a declaration of the variable x, which is an int variable, and it initialized as int value 1. Now the next statement is a while loop and the condition is x lesser than 10. Now the value of the x is 1. So 1 is lesser than 10. Therefore, we can go inside of the loop. Inside of the loop, the first statement is a if statement. If x greater than 3. Now the value of the x is 1 and 1 is not greater than 3. Therefore, we cannot go inside of the if statement. As it is the last statement of the while loop, we have to check the condition again. And this time, the value of the x is not changed. It's still the value 1. Therefore, the same thing is repeated and repeated and repeated again. So this loop is a never-ending loop. After a while, this program will be stuck and the machine will be crashed. Therefore, we need to avoid these never-ending loops. To avoid the never-ending loops, we need to include termination statements. This statement should increment the value of the x. So at some point, the value of the x would be 10, and when it checked the condition, 10 would not be lesser than the 10. Therefore, the loop will be terminated. So in this program, we have to include a statement either in this place or else either in this place, outside of the if statement. So what we have to write is something like this. x equal x plus 1. Forget to put the semicolon. Always remember to put the semicolon at the end of the statement. Now imagine we have inserted this statement right in here after the if statement. Now let's try to start from the beginning. The value of the x is 1 and then the while loop starting. 1 is lesser than 10, therefore we can go inside of the loop, but we cannot go inside of the if statement because 1 is not greater than 3. And at the end with this expression, the value of the x would be 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. And now again we have to check the condition of the while loop because we are at the end of the while loop. Now when checking the condition, 2 is lesser than 10. Therefore, we can go inside of the loop, but still we cannot go inside because 2 is not greater than 3. And then again at the expression, the new value of the x would be 3 because 2 plus 1 is 3. Now again check the condition, and here 3 is lesser than 10. Therefore, we can go inside of the while loop, but still we cannot go inside of the if statement because 3 is not greater than 3. Therefore, again at the expression, value of the x would be 4. And now when checking the condition of the while loop, 4 is lesser than 10. And we can go inside of the while loop. And at this time, in the if statement, yes, 4 is greater than 3. Therefore, the print statement will be print out big X for the first time. Now we are at the outside of the if statement. And in the expression, now the new value of the x would be 5. And when check the condition, 5 is lesser than 10. And also we can go inside of the if statement because 5 is greater than 3. And for the second time, the print statement will be printed out, the big X. And again, the value of the x would be 6 because 5 plus 1 is 6. And then at the condition, yes, 6 is lesser than 10. And also we can go inside of the if statement because 6 is greater than 3. And for the third time, it will be print out the big X. And at the expression, the new value of the x would be 7. And at the condition, yes, 7 is lesser than 10. And in the if statement, yes, 7 is greater than 3. And for the fourth time, the big X would be printed out. And at the expression, the new value of the x would be 8. And at the condition, 8 is lesser than 10 and also x is greater than 3. So for the fifth time, the big X would be printed out. And now the value of the x is 9 because 8 plus 1 is 9. And in the condition, yes, 9 is lesser than 10 and also 9 is greater than 3. So for the sixth time, it will be printed out the big X. And now at the expression, the new value of the x would be 10. And this time in the while loop, 10 is not lesser than 10. Therefore, the while loop would be terminated. Therefore, no never-ending loops. So that's how we can modify the source file A to get a fine output. Now let's look into the source file B. In here, there is no class name declaration. The first thing we have to do is put this main method inside of a class. And always remember the starting curly brace. Now let's go to the main method. In the main method, it is declaring the int variable x and initialize it as value 5. The next statement has a while loop. The condition is x greater than 1. Now the value of the x is 5 and 5 is greater than 1. Therefore, we can go inside of the while loop. Inside the while loop, it has an expression x equal x minus 1. Now the value of x is 5 and 5 minus 1 is 4. The new value of the x is 4. In the if statement, it has the condition x lesser than 3. Now the value of the x is 4 and 4 is not lesser than 3. Therefore, we cannot go inside of the if statement. Now again, we have to check the condition of the while loop. Now the value of the x is 4 and 4 is greater than 1. Therefore, we can go inside of the loop. The expression will make the value of the x as 3 because 4 minus 1 is 3. And in the if statement, 3 is not lesser than 3. Therefore, we cannot go inside of the if statement. And again, we have to check the condition of the while loop. Now the value of the x is 3 and 3 is greater than 1. And now in the expression, it will make the x value as 2 because 3 minus 1 is 2. And now in the if statement, this time 2 is lesser than 3. Therefore, we can go inside of the print statement for the first time. It will give the output small x. And now we have to check the condition again in the while loop. Now the value of the x is 2 and 2 is greater than 1. And in the expression, it will make the x value as 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. Now at the if statement condition, 1 is lesser than 3. Therefore, for the second time, the small x would be printed out. And then again, we have to check the condition in the while loop. And this time, 1 is not greater than 1. Therefore, the loop would be terminated. So, in the final output, there would be 2 lines of small x. Now, let's go for the file C. In file C, there is a class exercise 1b and it has forget the main method. So, in here, the main method should be included. Now inside the main method, the first statement declare and initialize the variable x with the value 5. And yes, everything in here are same as in the source file B. So you will get the same output as in the source file B if we include the main method. And that's all for this episode. We have a lot of questions to try out, but we can do them on future episodes. From the next lecture, we will back with the theory, and it's about object reference. So stay tuned on, and thank you for watching. This video brought to you by edupediaworld.com. Watch more from our website.